Good morning, friends. Good morning to all. Yeah, this is our third class in this week. Uh, Please mute yourself. Okay, let us start our class today. Our subject, yeah, is utilization of electrical energy. So, from previous weeks and the previous classes, we have seen the basic things, and as well as we have seen what are the types of motors we are going to use and what are the characteristics and how the characteristics are going to be varies from motor to motor, type of motor. So in the last classes we have seen the control, some speed control methods for your motors. So different type of motors what you have used for your industrial purpose. To control the speed of that motors, you have choose some of the different methods to control the motors like DC shunt, series, compound motors, and as well as induction motors. So first of all, in the last class, due to some technical problem, I have not discussed completely the lecture regarding the speed control methods of the induction motors. So I have prepared the lecture. In the shortly, I will post the video in the concerned YouTube channel. So please go through the YouTube channel and please sure about it. So let us step into our today's section. So before going to the today's section, just let me have an outline regarding the induction motor methods to control your speed. So this is the some drives we have discussed, and these are the speed control, some of the equations. In the previous classes, we have discussed all these things. Some speed control for DC motors, field control in the for controlling the speed of your DC shunt motor. We have seen some of the methods. There's field control method, field rheostatic control method, armature rheostatic control method. So before these control methods has classified into two types. Whatever the methods you are going to control at the side of your field, so those are categorized into the field control methods. Whatever may be the method you have used at the uh, field side. So whatever the methods you are going to use at the side of the armature to control the speed of your DC shunt motor, those methods are categorized into the armature control methods. So in this field control methods, there are some of the methods like field rheostatic control method, reluctance control method, and field control voltage. We have seen earlier and discussed, and these also these two methods we have used here under the armature control methods. These are the methods we have used the shunt. We have seen the same methods like field control methods and armature control methods which was applied for your DC series motors. So in here also you have some of the methods which was categorized under the field control methods. They are field diverters method, armature diverters method, a tapped field method, Starling field coils method, all these things. Uh, and when coming to this, these are the circuits and your characteristics, and this is the methods. So here another the categorized thing is armature control method. In this armature control method, you have seen the your circuit diagram and the variation with respect to the resistance and without respect to without resistance, how the characteristics between the speed and current is going to be varied. So this is the one of the most important method we have uh, seen regarding the speed control of your series motor. So here the basic adjustment, this is the connection of your Watt Leonard system. So these are some of advantages and disadvantages. And when these two types of motors you have used under the DC supply, and when coming to the AC supply, yeah, this is your induction motor. Here also you are going to use some of the methods to control the speed of your induction motor. But wow, there is one difference between these DC motors and the AC motors. While we are using the induction motor, the control of the speed of the induction motor is that not much easy when compared to the DC shunt motor, because in practical and at the time at the side of industries, a additional sorry this method we have said this method is very not this method, the control of the speed of the induction motor is somewhat difficult when compared to the DC shunt motor. Why? Because in practical practical importance, uh, there must be follow some characteristics, some characteristics, that is nothing but the speed characteristics they will follow very strictly at the side of when compared to the domestic purposes in the at the industrial purpose. Okay, sorry. At the industrial purpose, at the side of industry, the induction motor speed is varied, somewhat difficult. Why? Because they will follow this. They will follow very strict the speed characteristics of that machine. So here are some of the equations. Here in this induction motor, we are having the two major parts which was discussed earlier. That is stator and the rotor. Now we are going to control the speed from the both these sides, that is from stator side and from the rotor side. So from the stator side, these are the some of the controlling methods we are using here, that is supply frequency control, supply voltage control, and controlling the number of stator poles. And from the rotor side, these are some adding an external resistance to the rotor circuit and some cascading circuits. Okay, this is the some methods I have discussed earlier in this previous lecture video. So please go through that. Just I will give an outline here. Yeah, here, first of all, this method is very impractical. Why? Because the supply frequency we cannot change completely. We cannot vary, not change. We cannot vary this supply frequency to the motor. Why? Because this is the main frequency here. Let me show that. So when you connect a circuit, some resistance or motors or generator, whatever in general. So here at these two terminals, either you are using the DC, if you are using an AC phase and neutral. If you apply a voltage, that is a supply voltage, it is considered as V, and a current. You cannot change this supply you cannot vary the supply frequency. You can vary the voltage what is going to be applied across the armature or field, but you cannot vary the supply voltage. Why? Because it is not an easy thing. As of we can vary, but that not much of high value or thing. So the supply frequency at the time of starting, at the starting point, we cannot, it is not easy to vary the supply frequency. So here, how it is going to be vary. So this is a small circuit diagram. Here we are using an inverter and the rectifiers. So for the rectifier, we are using an AC input and the output is in a constant DC. This constant DC is given to the input to the inverter. This inverter output is going to be in a variable AC supply. So variable AC supply, there we are going to get the variable voltage and the variable frequency. These two are going to have an input to the induction motor. By this way, we are going to vary by varying the supply voltage and supply frequency, we are going to vary the speed of your induction motor. So by this, here the supply voltage control method. Here also same thing we are going to do at the stator side. Okay. So this is the third method. You are going to control the speed by using number of poles. Here, just a small thing. Check it out. Here, you are going to have the poles like South Pole and North Pole. See, if we are having the three terminals, that is one and two, three. Here, the first and two terminals has given for the supply, and the third is kept open. So here, if you check all the south poles of your magnets, here always the current flowing to upward direction, flowing in the upward direction. In the north side, in the north pole, it is going to be in the downward direction here. So supply is going to be like this. So here, before seeing this, let me have the windings are of two types, that is lap winding and wave winding. So here, to control the speed of your induction motor by changing the number of poles, you are going to use this lap winding. So by this lap winding, you are going to use the number of poles. Depending upon the changing of number of poles, we are going to change the speed. So here, now I am going to, here how many poles are there? 4 into 2, it is 8 pole. This is 8 pole system. This is 8 pole system. Now I am going to convert this a 4 pole into, 8 pole into 4 pole system. 8 pole into 4 pole system. So what will happen? See, this is the thing happen. The connection changes 8 pole to 4 pole. Then what will happen? Now, whatever the speed is having at the induction motor is going to be double. Is going to be double. The total 8 poles are changed to 4 poles. Nothing but here this north and south is going to be having a one magnet. This north and south making an one pole. This is the north and south one pole. So total 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are the 4 pole winding. Here, another change we made when compared to this 8 pole system is the first terminal and second terminal has made it as one terminal. And the third terminal has been connected to the third terminal. This is the third terminal. This is the 1 and 2. Here, what we made, first and second terminals has been connected to the main supply. The third is maintained open. But when coming to the 4 pole system, by changing the 8 pole to the 4 pole system, this first and second thing, two terminals has made into in a single terminal and has been given to like this. So here at this point, the current is going to be divided. What are the supply current? That is I is equal to IL. This is the load current. Sorry, I. This is passing to the both the directions. So by this, we are going to have we are going to reduce the 8 pole to 4 pole, and by this reducing, we are going to get the speed double the times when compared to the 8 pole system, right? So these are the methods we have done at the side of your stator. That is supply frequency, variation of supply frequency, variation of voltage, and varying the number of poles. All these three methods has come under your stator side. When coming to the rotor side, there is two methods, that is adding an external resistance to the rotor circuit and then a cascaded system. So here I have not shown any first method. This is a very important method, cascaded control system. So here, what is going to be happen means we are going to consider this two things, two motors, that is the main motor and the auxiliary motor. which was connected mechanically to a single shaft, connected mechanically. So these three are the slip rings. These three are the slip rings here also, and this one also. So cascading means combining. So here, while considering these two motors, before coupling the one motor to another motor, we have to note two important things. That is, one motor should be maintained as a phase wound motor, phase wound motor, and second one is maintained as made it as squirrel cage motor, squirrel cage motor. So here, whereas then the second point I have written, see, if two motors are to be mechanically coupled together, so before going to the coupling, mechanical coupling, we have to choose one motor as in a phase wound and another motor as in a squirrel cage motor. So this is the thing I have written here. One of the machines must be phase wound motor, while the other must be in a squirrel cage motor. So that means we can make it we can take it this motor, we named it as an auxiliary motor. Why? Because this is in a squirrel cage motor. Before connecting, we can make it as a main motor and it is an auxiliary motor, but this motor should be in a squirrel cage, this should be in a phase wound. So according to this diagram, this is in a phase wound motor, the main motor. This connected to the three-phase supply. This is RYB. This is a three-phase, and is mechanically coupled and within a slip rings, which was connected to the motor. See, this the rotor side, the shaft is connected to the auxiliary weights. Second side of the stator. Okay. So by rotation of the shaft, the auxiliary motor is going to get the input torque, and due to this input torque, due to the voltage and current by these resistances, by connecting the starting resistance, we are maintaining, we are going to control the current at the shaft side, and going to shaft current and shaft torque. By controlling the shaft torque, the speed is going to be controlled. So by this method, we are going to be control on the rotor side. So these are the things I have written here. Just I will post it out. I have this is the equation how the N2 is nothing but the speed at the rotor side of your auxiliary motor. N1 is the speed of your main motor and N2 is your auxiliary motor speed. Now by basing upon the poles, total number of poles, here I have taken P1 and P2 as in a poles for both the machines. P1 is number of poles of your main motor and P2 is taken as the auxiliary motor poles. So, here the total number of poles in the first case P1 plus P2 and in the second case P1 minus P2. Why it is happening, we'll check in the equations. So the always depends upon the frequency, depends upon the slip of the frequency. So the speed, all these equations, please note it down. I will provide you this PPT. I have recorded the videos regarding this topic also. So just the outline. Now, based upon these speed controls regarding your shunt series and induction motors, let us have some problems which are very simple, easy to solve, and I will also provide one video lecture regarding the problems by solving. So now we will see just 2 to 3 problems that based upon our time. So let us step into the problems. Yeah, this is your first problem regarding I have taken for the shunt motor. So here what he has asked, please all of you note down this problem. A 200 volt shunt motor has an armature resistance of 0.5 ohms. It takes a current of 16 amperes. So that means what it has, this is the full current. So the armature current is in 16 amperes. So this 200 volts is in a supply voltage. This is your supply voltage, main voltage. Is the armature resistance which is having an a 0.5 ohms on full load and runs at RPM. This is considered to be an a speed of your shunt motor. If the resistance of 0.5 is placed in the armature circuit, find the ratio of starting torque and to the full load torque. He has asked the starting torque to the full load torque. So before solving this ratio, first of all, you have to calculate the starting torque. So here is your equation. So total starting torque is equal to V by RA plus R external. Why? Because here the 0.5 ohms has been connected, is placed. So please please place the values. Here I have given the data. Please check it out. V is the supply voltage, RA is the armature current, IA is the armature current 16 amperes, which is running at the speed of 600 RPM. This is the external resistance which was connected to the connected in the armature circuit, that is 0.5 ohms, and the total full load current is 16 amperes, because here he has mentioned in the problem it takes the current of 16 amperes on full load. That's why it has taken as full load current, total full load current 16 amperes. So please place these values from your given data and please tell me what is the value you have got regarding the starting torque. Please have your answers in your chat box. Yes, right. Someone has answered 200 newtons. Yes. And by getting this starting torque, please calculate the ratio of starting torque to the total full load torque. So this is nothing but what is the ratio starting torque to the full load torque is equal to starting current to the full load current. Why? Because here just I would like to give you a small explanation why this has torque is the ratio is going to be like this, because in the shunt motor we are making the flux as a constant. We are treating the flux as a constant. That's why torque depends upon current. This is the equation, simple equation. You are going to see the from the earlier. Torque is directly proportional to phi Ia, and EB is directly proportional. N is directly proportional to EB and inversely proportional to phi. So the torque is directly proportional to phi Ia in the shunt motor. In the shunt motor, we are going to take phi as a constant. So by considering it is a constant, torque is directly proportional to Ia. There's nothing but T is equal to some K into Ia. So by the ratio, the constants are going to be cancelled. K into IST and K into IFL. Constants are going to cancel. So finally, you are going to starting torque by full load torque equals to starting current by full load current. This is the ratio. Please calculate these terms and please keep your answers in the chat box. He has asked to find the ratio of starting torque to full load torque. So just place this starting current and the full load current. What is the answer? Yes, 12.5. Right. Yes, very good, very good. Thanks for your responses. Thanks for your response. Yes, 12.5. So, this is your problem regarding the shunt motor. Earlier, it has been asked for the 2 marks, 4 marks, sorry, 4 marks. So, have you finished, all of you? Let us step into the next problem. Yeah, this is your second problem. Please check it out. First of all, please check what he has given in the problem. A 200 volts here, 220 volts. Here he has taken 220 volts as a supply, and he has given the motor rating also. That is 10 HP metric tons. So shunt motor has a field and armature resistance. So field resistance is, that is nothing but RSH, that is 120 ohms, and armature resistance is 0.25 ohms. So calculate the resistance to be inserted in the armature circuit to reduce the speed to 700 rpm from 950 rpm. With the full load efficiency is 80% and the torque varied as the square of the speed. So first of all, you have to uh, notice the point is he has given whatever the torque. Yes, someone has raised the hand. Yes, you can have the question in the chat box. Someone raised the hand. Okay, let us continue. So here the torque varied as square of the speed. So here is your given data which I have discussed in this problem. This is your shunt motor. The first and basic thing is the equation of the current, the total current is depends upon the both the shunt current and the armature current. So what he has given, if you have the load as in a full load, then the efficiency is going to be 80%. The load efficiency is going to be 80%. At this 80%, the torque is going to be varied as the square of the speed. Okay, here the main question is he is asking how much of resistance, that is external resistance, is to be inserted in the armature. Why? Because for what purpose? To reduce the speed from N1 to N2. That is nothing but 950 to 700. So here is your solution. So first of all, calculate the motor output, and second, calculate the output input power. So we have an equation like efficiency means output power by input power. All you know very well, I think. The efficiency of motor can be calculated, or is going to be depend upon the output power and the input power of the machine. So by the ratio of output power to the input power, we can calculate the percentage. If you want to have the percentage, just multiply with 100. So here he has given the output power directly because the rating of the power is how much? 10 HP. That is your output power. So but we are going to calculate the power in watts, not in the horsepower. So he has converted the horsepower into the watts. That is nothing but 1 horsepower is equal to 735 into 5 watts. So the total output power is 7355 watts. So in watts. So by having this output power, we have given, he has given in the problem, the efficiency is about 80% at the full load. Now that means you are going to calculate all the terms at the full load. So efficiency is equal to P naught by A. Efficiency 80%. So we are not going to calculate here percentage efficiency. We are taking only the efficiency, that is nothing but P output power by input power. So that's why 80 by 100, that is nothing but 0.8 equals to 7355 by input power. So this is the term you have to calculate. So by cross multiplying or cross changing, so what is the input power? That is 9193.75. After the decimal, it is above 5. That's why I have round off to the 9194, which is an approximate value. So, but we know the PI, input power, is nothing but voltage into current. General equation of the power. If you anyone asks what is a power, just we are saying that the product of voltage into current gives your power value. So here by having this equation, we are having the calculation of input current. This is I. That is 41.78. So please go through these solutions. I will post. So like this, you are going to have the calculation of IA1 and IA2. So what I have said, the equations from the starting we are following is two equations, that is torque directly proportional to phi Ia and speed is directly proportional to the back EMF and inversely proportional to the flux. So by using this equation, you are going to calculate this N1 by N2 is equal to EB1 by EB2. If you have, because in the shunt motor, you are going to neglect this phi because it is constant, it is going to be considering as a constant. That's why N is directly proportional to back EMF. So that's why N1 by N2 is directly proportional to EB1 by EB2. N1 by N2 is equals to EB1 by EB2. So all we know that equation voltage is equals to back EMF plus IaRa, voltage drop across the armature. So he has considered the two speeds, 700 rpm to 951 rpm. So how much the armature circuit is armature resistance is to be inserted. So that's why we have considered EB at the speed N1. We are going to have some EB1 value at the speed of N2, because here please note this point. Before checking the speed, this is your initial speed, because he has asked to reduce the speed to 700 rpm, not 900 rpm. He has to reduce 950 rpm speed to the 700 rpm. So this was your N1, this is for your N2. Based upon this N1 and N2, you are going to calculate this EB1 and EB2. So by here in the second thing, to reduce the speed from 950 to 700 rpm, that is nothing but by reducing, you have to place some resistance to the armature. That is your external resistance here. In the first problem, you have calculated here the external resistance. See, he has given directly. He has inserted 0.5 ohms in the directly in the armature. Thereby, you are going to calculate the torque. But here, he has asked to calculate the external resistance, how much is to be inserted in the armature to reduce the speed from 950 to 700 rpm. That's why we are going to add and some external resistance, that is nothing but R external, which is to be calculated. So by using these two equations and in the relationship N1 by N2 is equal to EB1 by EB2, thereby solving these steps, you are going to get the value of your external resistance. So this value represents at the value of 2.76 ohms, the speed is going to be reduced from 950 RPM to 700 RPM. So this is your value. So you are going to have these types of problems. This question has been asked for 14 marks in your external exam. So please follow these problems and practice, maintain practice. And I will give some more problems like this and I will post to you in a PDF format. Please solve all those problems and get back to me if you have any queries or if you have any problems regarding the solvation. And I will also produce the solution for each and every problem in the both in the video as well as in the PDF format. So, and the last problem I would like to discuss here, this is the only the problem I have taken to the series motor. Now we have seen earlier for the these two problems which were DC shunt motor. So let us see here what he has asked and for the series motor and how it is going to be solved. So this is your series motor. This is the resistance which was connected in series to the armature terminals. Okay, this is the DC supply plus and minus. So here also going to be considered plus and minus. So IA is the armature current, IL is the load current, which is equals to the supply current. So here we can write the equation IL is equal to I equals to IA. So here what he has asked in the question, let us step into the problem. A series motor with the series field and armature resistance, he has given armature resistance RA is nothing but 0.06 ohms and 0.02 ohms respectively is connected across the 440 volts mains. So this is your voltage, input voltage is 440 volts. The armature takes 60 amperes, that is IA, and its speed is 850 RPM. And this is the N. First of all, up to here, we will consider the N value as an 850. Determine its speed. So he is asking, that's why we have to calculate the second speed. He has given N1 as 850. I have written here, sorry. So how it is going to be taken? He has asked, determine the speed when it takes 85 amperes. So what this IA, before he has asked at the current value 60 amperes, the speed is about 850 RPM. But he is asking when the current increases to 85 amperes or at the point of 85, how much the speed it is going to be happening. So he has given one another point regarding the flux. From this, very and the excitation is increased by 15%. 15% excitation is increased. That means earlier he has given the flux. At this speed, we are going to be 850 RPM. We are going to consider the phi 1. But he is asking at the 85 amperes. So that is 60 amperes. You are going to have the flux as a phi 1. I have considered it. At 85 amperes, he has given the excitation is increased by 15%. That is 115. If you consider the 100%, suppose for our consideration, just this, he has given the excitation increased by 15. That is 15%. 115 by 100. We are going to get 1 by 1 point. Before the excitation, we have considered phi 1. So this is nothing but your flux phi 2. So here, this is the relation I have written here in the given data. So please check this the given data. V N1, IA1, IA2, RAF, IA2, and RSC. This is the series system. So here, the same relationship, that is nothing but N is directly proportional to EB and inversely proportional to flux. If you calculate the EB1 at the speed n1, it is EB1 by phi1. If you calculate the speed n2, that is directly proportional to EB2 by phi2. So if you have both the ratio equation n1 by n2, that is nothing but EB1 by phi1 by EB2 by phi2. So by solving this, we are going to get this EB2 by EB1 is equal to n2 by n1 is equal to phi by into phi1 by phi2. So you all very well know by calculation of EB1, that is V minus IA into RA plus RSE, because here we are going to consider it as a series motor. So that's why you have to calculate both the resistances RA plus RSE. So here also you are going to have the EB2 value. By placing this equation, you are going to get the value which he has asked us to solve. So from this, you are going to get this N2 value. Okay, this is the way of process to solve the problem. So I'm going to conclude this session by these problems and the topics of the outline of your induction motor. So if you have any queries, please post it in the chat box so that I can have the answers to your queries.
Sir, louder please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So if you have any queries, please post in the chat box. Just I will answer to your queries. This is the time we are going to close this section, sir.